All right, it's 6 o'clock, so I'll go ahead and call this regular board meeting of the Saugatuck Township Board to order on Wednesday, May 14, 2025. If you are able, please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll note that all trustees are present. That brings us to reports, and our assessor, Tony, is not here tonight, so we will hear from him at a different time. Treasurer Hummer, would you go ahead and review the treasurer's report?
Up front, some.
All right, so my treasurer's report for May 14th, 2025. Again, it's all very, very positive. Cash on hand in our general bank account as of the first of the month is $961,000. You may note that that decreased by 1.264 million from April. And that's because we took some of that excess cash, which you don't need on a daily basis, and directed it towards investments. And we'll be more on investments shortly. On the revenue side, all permits continue to run well ahead of budget. General fund revenues total are currently at 90% of the budgeted amount for the fiscal year, which doesn't end until at the end of next month. Total revenues are 17% ahead of the budget plan. Marijuana licenses and revenue share from the state, as well as rental permits, are significantly above budgeted amounts. General fund expenses currently sit at 77% of budgeted expense for the fiscal year, which is 6% below that year we thought they would be. Again, no departmental overages to deal with. And I do want to point out, as I do, that these positive numbers, especially with cash on hand, we had significant payments made out to include, we purchased a new CD with Grand River Bank, and we have $40,000, a little more for payments to township engineers and the exterior planners. So again, all very positive. Tax year 2025 is coming soon. We'll be preparing tax bills for in June. Peter wanted me to point out that property owners can now pay taxes via ACH without any fees, which is an improvement from our old credit card system. And back to investments. So total investment values as of the first of the month were at $7.234 million, increase of $825,000 from March, primarily because of the new purchase I mentioned. I do want to point out the second page behind my treasury report, you'll see the very colorful financial investments report. State law requires the treasurer report the detail on their investments every quarter to the full board. That would have been last month. We weren't able to do that because Peter and I both had vacations. One of our CDs or one of our bonds matured like on the end of the month. So here's that detailed report. If you have any questions looking at that, the main highlights are new things. Mentioned we put more money in this year's class, and that's the one that's 100% liquid. We need it. Purchased a new CD with Grand River Bank, and also a new treasury note through DA Davidson, one of our two financial municipal. Let's see. And then final time here, Deputy Treasurer, Financial Coordinator. Stanislavski is obviously working very closely right now. Township Manager on our 2025-2026 budget. So there'll be more of that coming up shortly. If you have any questions on the investment breakdown, we did add that column you requested.
Yes, the purchase price. Thank you.
And the current year, yeah.
Which is sometimes misleading.
I know.
Yeah. So it doesn't always.
But it's very strong.
Right.
And as I think I mentioned, Daniel, I think at this point, we're gonna kind of just cool our jets because we've been so progressive. We hit 7 million. We'll just deal with items that mature as they come up. And there's one coming up at the end of this month.
Okay.
So more on that later.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support on that, Abby.
Ms. Eisman, do you have the planning commission
I
report?
have a planning commission report. The planning commission recommended that the board approve all the zoning ordinances that they addressed, and they are now in your packet as recommended for approval. The board also made the determination that the office building by Sanctuary Trail is not a permitted use in the C1 zone district. So that was done by the planning commission. And the presentation that we were planning on hearing was not held. It was postponed till next month. So the person who was going to give the presentation wasn't here.
Cindy? Yeah, I have a better report.
The clerk report for the election.
Yes,
The
we're going
election
to do
went
that.
very smoothly. There were a total of 858 votes cast, and the vast majority of them were by absentee ballot. So there was, absentee ballots were, I don't see the number right now, but the village passed 391 to 166 in the township. That's the end. Next,
And one of,
next, election will be in August.
And that's when those schools,
That's
like a
yeah.
renewal or,
I didn't see the proposal yet,
okay.
but it is, it's for Brenda Public Schools, not for Saugatuck Township.
My son told me what was gonna be on the ballot in August. Manager DeFranco, you wanna give us the highlights of your, manager's report?
Absolutely, so a lot of stuff happening, so construction continues on the Riverside Drive Dugout Road Water Main Replacement Project. The water main is in, and we're working through connecting homes or replacing known lead service lines right now. And then after that, we'll start on the road improvement portion of the project, so that's going along smoothly. Thank you, Tyler, for all of your help. Brian Newup has been amazing in just communicating with the residents and working with the contractor. We've gotten a lot of compliments from the homeowners. It's not without its hiccups. There's been a few internet lines cut and little things like that, but overall, it was a pretty smooth project for how complicated that area of the township is. So happy that's moving forward and really hoping that that's finished by or before Memorial Day weekend. The township did complete and publish a project planning document for the replacement of all lead service lines in the township. That was made available on the township website. It's also in your packet. And it is a requirement of applying to the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund for a low interest loan, which will hold a public hearing later in the meeting for. Kind of jumping ahead, the Lakeshore Overlay District Ordinance has officially gone into effect. So the overlay district applies to properties on the west side of Lakeshore Drive from approximately M89 to a little north of Wiley Road. We did send letters to all property owners on the west side informing them of the new ordinance. And we also sent letters to all the property owners on the east side because there is increased tree protection along Lakeshore Drive and that does affect their property. So just trying to make sure that all affected property owners are aware of the changes in the zoning ordinance. We continue to work with Progressive AE on our housing readiness grant. So the grant requires us to actually adopt ordinances that make housing more attainable in the township. So that is one of the goals, but we're also working on activities that concern master planning. So we are looking at the future land use map and looking at key areas of the township where it makes sense to have increased density for housing. I think we're also considering areas that it might be wise to decrease density for housing or allow density. We did have recently a project come before the planning commission that proposed higher density for a residential lot. And we had a lot of neighbors come out, so we're thinking about where does higher density make sense and where does higher density not make so much sense, but ultimate goal is to increase or improve the attainability of housing in the township. So we're continue to work on that. The township did successfully apply to the Michigan Health Endowment Fund's Nutrition and Healthy Lifestyle Grant Program. So that grant request was for $350,000, and that is to primarily support engineering work for the southern extension of the Blue Star Trail. So that would be a joint project by the city of Douglas, Saugatuck Township, and the Allegheny County Road Commission, extending the Blue Star Trail from where it currently terminates at Wiley Road all the way down to M89, which is the border of the township. And then the idea is that the Friends of the Blue Star Trail and Ganges will pick up the trail at that point and continue it through their community. This is an exciting development, not only because it would pay for the entire engineering cost of the project, which $350,000 is a big lift. So that's very exciting, but if we are successful, it does open up a new funding opportunity to the Friends of the Blue Star Trail and our other municipalities in Allegheny County. Currently, all of our grants that we get apply to construction. So like the TAP grant, you can't get any reimbursements for engineering. So if we're successful in this grant program, that's another tool that the Friends of the Blue Star Trail can use as they move south in Allegheny County. So it's an exciting opportunity. I hope that we're successful, but again, if we're successful, it's a model for the Friends as they move south. And then the township was successful in securing $185,000 from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation's Rehabilitation and Placemaking Grant Program. And that is to support the township's Town Plaza project, which is essentially redeveloping the front parking lot at this site into a town plaza or kind of a pocket park, and then relocating the parking lot and developing in the back of the site. This is for general beautification of the Blue Star Highway, but it's also part of the longer vision of transitioning Blue Star into more of this kind of neighborhood feeling street, where we don't have parking lots placed in the front of buildings, but they're placed in the back. And then hopefully having buildings sited closer to the road to create more of that downtown feel. And also to help encourage vehicles go at a slower rate, because we do know that when things are located closer to the road's edge, it does create this visual experience where people want to go slower. So we're kind of trying to walk the walk, but it's a great help towards that project. And then this board completed the second workshop of their strategic planning process. We have a lot of great information from that, and Lene, our township planner, and I will be working on putting all of that together into a cohesive plan for your review.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, that brings us to item number 4, which is public comment, and we have a lot of public today, which we like. Most of you know the drill. 3 minutes if you're speaking on behalf of yourself, 5 minutes if you're speaking on behalf of a group, and it's not a time to engage the board or question and answer time, but just to be heard and considered. So we'll just start with the second row right there. Yes.
Evening, my name is Vicki Rosenberg. I live at 445 North Maple Street in the township. I'm a member of the board. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Member of the board of the Saugatuck Township Coastal Alliance. I'm here this evening to ask you to enforce our town ordinances. As you know, North Shore of Saugatuck has applied for permits from Michigan's Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, to build a boat ramp at the site of the old Broward Marine boat ramp. As the Coastal Alliance documented to you in the letter dated March 17, 2020, Broward was only able to operate its boat ramp between 1977 to 2004 under a special approval use permit that was conditioned on the ramp being used only for boats constructed at Broward Marine, and with uses confined to an area measuring 850 feet by 850 feet. The boat building operation was removed more than 10 years ago, so a boat ramp at the Broward site is not. If the township inexplicably allows North Shore to build a boat ramp there, then you are required to terminate the SAE marina permit issued to North Shore in 2017, because the terms of that permit expressly prohibit. That 2017 permits states, quote, there should be no fuel sales, no pump out services or facilities, no boat storage facilities, no boat launch facilities, and no in and out boat service provided. I will conclude with the issue of navigational safety. Adding significant boat traffic on the channel poses hazards for commercial and recreational boaters alike. You've been there this summer to see how congested it is without a boat ramp or marina. Now imagine 20 to 30 additional large yachts, also vying for space on a summer day. With commercial boats, recreational boaters, kayaks, it's not safe. And I will note that 20 to 30 additional yachts per day is a very conservative estimate given the number of houses and boat storage facilities at Ocean. We're asking you to please follow our ordinances and do your job to ensure the safety of your residents, business owners, and tourists. No marina. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else in the second row? Oh, sorry, we'll just go row by row, so we don't miss.
Hi, my name is Holly Anderson, and I'm also a member of the Saugatuck Township Coastal Alliance Board. I live in the city of Saugatuck. I'm also an elected official, and I have some idea of the challenges you face as trustees. I don't think municipal government has probably ever been easy, but I think we all face challenges now that, you know, our predecessors didn't face. I don't know any of you all that well, but I have a sense of enough of you to know that we're concerned about what's going on in our country, especially to our democracy now. You know, bit by bit over the course of my adulthood, we've seen big money interest managed to convince lawmakers at every level, especially nationally, to turn a blind eye to laws and regulations designed to protect the common good. And that's wrong, and I think we all know that that's wrong. It's easy to see this in the use of, you know, all of the things we're seeing now, whether it's a destruction of, you know, some of our programs for health and safety, the environment, science, education, go on and on. And the consequences can be dire and permanent. Our hope in this era, for all of us, I think, is that public officials at all levels, and that means people like us, stand up and have the courage to do what's right. Whether it's to say no to a wealthy developer wanting to skirt regulations, or lawyers telling us, they're telling lawyers that we respectfully are deciding to go in a different direction. We can make a difference, especially in our local communities. And as local lawmakers, you know, it's our role to make sure that we are upholding the common good of the people who elect us. North Shore proposed a marina, and they are challenging the permit denial by Eagle, so that is still a live thing. And the proposed boat ramp clearly violate township zoning ordinances. And we're baffled, though respectful, by why you stay silent. Whether it's a sort of a lawsuit or something else, I wonder if this is how you want to be remembered. In the case of the marina, are you willing to trade cripple dunes, wetlands, lake sturgeon, natural habitat, and navigational safety for what? And in the case of the boat ramp, are you willing to gamble that there's enough room for that much more boat traffic for people to be safe, visitors and residents alike? You have regulations on the books that would void the marina permit today. And you also have regulations that would require the proposed boat ramp to go through your formal. We hope that you will enforce those ordinances and processes. And thank you for all you do. We appreciate it.
Well, at least it wasn't like. I didn't know what I should have made. If you hear music, that means just.
It's time to wrap up. Yours is much more polite.
Yours is, really. So I'm Bobby Gaunt. I do chair the board of the Saugatuck Dunes Coastal Alliance, and I live at 341 Main Street, Saugatuck. I'm going to turn 79 this year. And maybe it's my age combined with the times in which we're living, but for whatever reason, I've been thinking a lot lately about legacy. I was 4 years old when I witnessed a Black man attacked by a gang of white men when he drank from a water fountain in my mother's hometown in Georgia. The sign for whites only had disappeared. And that's when my social justice roots were planted. I grew up in a small town outside of Pittsburgh, where the air and the water were significantly polluted by the mines and the mills. And that's where my environmental justice roots took shape. In 1972 rather, I was the first woman admitted into Ford Motor Company's management training program. I retired from Ford in 2000, 28 years later. At that time, I was the president and CEO of Ford of Canada and an officer of the company. And as you might imagine, my dedication to social, environmental, and equal rights justice only grew deeper while I was at Ford. The leadership principles which guided me in my career were not just the usual business ones, wrapped up around doing the job better than anyone and winning the markets. But they were life principles about how one leaves a place better than one found it. Giving more than one takes, giving voice to the voiceless, and a word about legacy. It's about giving voice to the living whose voice is not able to be heard. Human voices, yes, but also the voices of nature, which feeds and nurtures us, just as does the river, as does the dunes, and as does its habitat. In writing your ordinances, you or those before you created a legacy for the preservation of this place, where lake meets river, meets dunes, meets forest. For instance, you surely must have had legacy in mind when you passed the Lakeside Overlay Ordinance to combat coastal erosion. That is a beautiful ordinance, and thank you very much for that work. Based on my life experiences and based on the reading of history, beginning with the stories of our Indigenous brothers and sisters in this place, of novels and poetry that have been created in this place, and experiencing the arts that have been inspired by the dunes and the water, I know that legacy work is hard, but it's absolutely necessary for giving voice and giving healing and giving life. As you make the decisions that are coming before you, that my friends and colleagues have spoken about this evening, please consider what you are leaving or not for life as we know it and for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Anyone else in the second row? All right, third row.
Hi, my name is Fran Van Howe. I'm happy to be here tonight. It's exciting hearing about your work. It's very interesting and encouraging. It's positive. It's great. I live at 2378 Lakeshore Drive, Fentville. My comments are going to be a little bit repetitive, but I appreciate you listening. I appreciate it tonight. It is my understanding that in 1977, the Township Planning Commission granted a special use permit to Broward Marine for a ramp to launch boats constructed there at Broward. They made 1 or 2 boats a year, which they launched with a travel lift to move them to the well and then tied them up along the seawall in front of Broward. We have a sailing charter business, Sweetwater Sailing, and we were not doing that then, but we were at a dock right next to Broward, paying the person who lived there then. And so we saw that's exactly what they did. And they didn't make very many boats. So that was their use there. They would put the boat in the water and finish the insides. It was not congested at all. In 2017, the Township Planning Commission, even with strong community opposition, granted North Shore a permit for a marina to be dug into the land at the river mouth. This permit included a condition prohibiting the boat ramp. So that's in black and white, is my understanding. If the boat ramp is moving forward to approval, the commission must revoke the marina permit, or the commission must deny the boat ramp if North Shore continues to pursue their marina. Please enforce the township ordinances and all the conditions placed on development projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else in the third row that would like to speak? No? Okay, how about the fourth row? There will be a chance again at the end of the meeting, so we want to make sure everybody has a opportunity. Are there any individuals joining us?
Somebody's raising their hand in the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes, please, go ahead.
Very brief. My name is Marcia Sikora.
Hi, Marcia.
Dan, how you doing? I live at 3480 Riverside Drive, smack on the river, to see this firsthand. The congestion has gotten worse. I don't understand why any of this is even up for discussion. There are clear regulations preventing that horrible marina and the boat ramp from being built. Nobody's benefiting from this except the lawyers who are ginning up more fees. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Marcia. Did we have one? Somebody joining us?
If you're on Zoom and want to speak, please raise your hand. Going once.
Well, I wonder if that's our commissioner, if that's,
That's what we were suspecting.
okay. I bet, I think.
Brad's iPhone, did you want to say anything?
No, thank you. I'm good. I'm just listening.
Thank you, Commissioner, for joining us. All right, I'll go ahead and close, public comment. And move on to, the approval of the agenda. I understand there might be a small addition.
This is a small addition. I apologize. I didn't have this before our meeting yesterday. We work with two municipal financial advisors. One of them is a multi-bank securities, the Detroit suburbs. They have asked us to renew our adopt the resolution that designates myself, a supervisor, and I'd like to add the deputy treasurer to this, people that can make moves, can work with them on financial decisions. It has to be approved by the board, so it's in the agenda. I just want you to be aware of it.
This agenda.
In the consent agenda.
Is that, yeah,
That's all. It's perfunctory, and again, we weren't able to get it into this point, so that's all. Oh, that would be item 6G.
all right, would anybody, like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda with the addition of item 6G?
6-7, I think.
6.
Well, it's G.
Was it G?
It's G here instead of there. So.
Oh, sorry, that's okay. We'll figure it out.
6G.
G7, Justin Savell.
Um,
I wish we were in G7.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented with the addition of item number 7G.
We'll get it.
the resolution.
The resolution.
Having Peter Stanislavski as a approved,
And updating the names and email addresses for the others.
okay. For support,
On support.
we have a motion and support. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. So that does bring us to the consent agenda. I trust that everyone has had a chance to review that. If there is nothing that we would like pulled from the consent agenda to discuss further in more detail, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda this month.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as amended this evening.
I'll support.
We have a motion and support for the discussion. None, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Zero. We have nothing, in the category of fiduciary oversight or policy development, evaluation and actions. So that brings us to legislative actions, ordinances. Does anybody have any idea what page that starts on?
117.
Thank you. Okay, I know that we talked about this in some detail at our committee of the whole meeting. But Daniel, if you want to just give us a brief description of this memo. And I do understand that we need to although laborious make action separately for these 6 different changes.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, so these are 6 amendments to the zoning ordinance, so they're not new ordinances, they're amending existing ordinances. What I thought would be the most straightforward way to do this is kind of briefly describe what each amendment proposes to do. And then if nobody has questions about a specific ordinance amendment, then we can go through and begin to approve all 6. And as Clerk Osmond had said in her report, all of these have been recommended for approval unanimously by the planning commission. So our first amendment that amends sections 8.20, 12.70, 18.20, and 22.10. Though that amendment is correcting typos and clarifying the definition of structure. The amendment to section 3.4 amends or changes the side setbacks for district R3 from 10 feet to 15 feet. One of the reasons is because prior to the updated ordinance, the side setback was 15 feet. And now that we have the overlay district, those side setbacks are 15 feet as well. So it's making the side setbacks for all of R3, which is along the lake shore, consistent with the side setbacks for the overlay district. The amendment to section 14.60 expands the low impact development standards to all development types that require site plan. Right now, low impact development standards only apply to multifamily and commercial projects. So this extends those requirements to all projects that require a site plan to be approved by planning commission. The amendment to sections 8.180 and 8.300. This one excludes incidental sand and gravel excavation from the mineral extraction standards. So that's not, the purpose is not to extract to sell, but it's just an incidental excavation. Those mineral extraction standards do not apply. And then it also sets a permit period for, look at this, mobile food units, also known as food trucks. So it sets a permit period of 90 days that can be renewed once every calendar year for an additional 90 days. So someone can have a food truck located somewhere for a maximum of 180 days in the township, and then that renews again after a calendar year. It also sets or establishes setbacks and operating hours for any food truck that is operating with a generator. The amendment to section 7.120 pertains to private streets that require paving. So private streets in the township that service 9 or less home sites do not require paving. If a private road is servicing 10 or more home sites, it requires paving. This amendment establishes an aggregate specification for paving. So not just any kind of paving will do, it has to conform with M.21A specifications. And then our final amendment to section 7.140. This is to create a definition of mass grading and require and establish standards for review of a grading plan. you have any questions about the amendments to those zoning ordinances? Okay,
I'll move to adopt ordinance number 2025-02, an ordinance to amend sections 8.20, 12.70, 18.20, and 22.10 of the Saugatuck Township zoning ordinance to clarify the definition of structure and correct miscellaneous typos.
I'll support that.
We have a motion by Marcy, support by Osman. Any further discussion? I'll call the roll. Marcy,
Yes.
Osman,
Yes.
Hummer,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Bigford, yes.
I'll make a motion. The ordinance number 2025-03, ordinance to amend section 3.40 of the Saugatuck Township zoning ordinance to change the side setbacks of the R3 zoning districts from 10 feet to 15 feet.
I'll support.
We have a motion by Hummer, support by Marcy. Any discussion? Hummer,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Bigford, yes. Osman,
Yes.
Aldrich.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2025-04, an ordinance to amend section 14.60 of the Saugatuck Township zoning ordinance to provide that township's low impact development standards apply to all developments requiring site plan.
I'll support.
Motion by Aldrich, support by Hummer. Further discussion? No. Aldrich,
Yes.
Hummer,
Yes.
Osman,
Yes.
Bigford, yes. Marcy,
Yes.
over halfway. Okay.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2025-05, an ordinance to amend sections 8.180 and 8.300 of the Saugatuck Township zoning ordinance to modify the special use criteria for mineral extraction and mobile food.
I'll support.
Motion by Aldrich, support by Hummer. Discussion. Hearing none, call the roll. Aldrich,
Yes.
Hummer,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Bigford, yes. Osman,
Yes.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2025-06. An ordinance to amend section 7.120 of the Saugatuck Township zoning ordinance to private streets that are required to be paved must use MDOT 21A specification aggregate.
I'll support. Motion by Marcy, support by Osman. Further discussion? None. Marcy?
Yes.
Osman?
Yes.
Bigford, yes. Aldrich?
Yes.
Hummer?
Yes.
3-5-0. One more.
I will move to approve ordinance number 2025-0.07, ordinance to add a new section 7.140 to the Saugatuck Township zoning ordinance to require and establish standards for the review of grading.
I'll support that.
Motion by Hummer, support by Osman. Discussion? Hummer?
Yes.
Osman?
Yes.
Marcy?
Yes.
Aldrich?
Yes.
Bigford, yes. Right. Well done. That's, you don't have any items under, section 10, 11, or 12, so that brings us to do new business. WSRF submission for lead line replacement. And this is a public hearing.
Have Tyler Ware here from Brendan Newhawk. Do you want to have Tyler present on the project plan document first and then open it up to the public hearing?
Sure,
So
that
that,
way give the public a chance to take that information and.
Yep.
I'll, whatever.
Sure.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Tyler.
There's a clicker in the podium. A little shuttle.
oh, perfect. For that, oops. Oh, can you go back? Give me a back.
He's done.
Wow.
Did you get all of them?
I pushed both ways. Oh, there's the back. I just. All right, thank you for having me today. Yes, I'm gonna talk about the DWSRF project planning document that the township is planning to submit to Eagle on June 1. So this is a required public comment period, public hearing for that DWSRF program. So without further ado, we'll get into it. So today I want to talk a little bit. Well, I'll tell you what I'm gonna talk about. First thing is there's a sign-in sheet, so if anyone in the public has not signed that sign-in sheet, please do. It is a requirement of Eagle that we report that sign-in sheet back, the final planning document. I'm gonna take a step back first of all and talk a little bit about the TMF grant that the townships had and discuss what kind of led to where we are now with the application. Then I'll talk a little bit about existing system needs within the water system and relating to lead service lines. And then I'll present the recommended project that the township is planning to submit. Discuss the DWSRF program a little bit on some of the details there. And then talk a little bit about the financing, how it will be financed and what the ultimate cost is to the water system users. Then Eagle also wants us to talk a little bit about some anticipated social environmental impacts and how those can be mitigated. And then I'll go on to some next steps, so. There we go. So as many of you are aware, the township received a TMF grant for $258,000 back in 2023. This is a community technical, managerial, and financial support for lead service line replacement grant. So we just call it TMF grant for short. The primary focus of this grant is to verify unknown but suspected lead service lines throughout the community. So that is the main focus of this. So that's what we've been doing this past year in 2024, doing a lot of potholing of those services as well as interior inspections. And then another piece for this grant is a DWSRF project planning document development. So it paid for all the development of that plan that's been available to the public. And it actually is a requirement of the grant that the applicant apply for DWSRF. And then lastly, there is some money in there as well for public education and outreach that we're using to update the website, send out letters, things like that. And then so a lot of this money helps the township be able to submit the complete distribution system material inventory, CDSMI, to Eagle. That was a requirement in October 2024. So this is an inventory that we keep in GIS, tracking all the water system materials throughout. So I want to take a brief overview on water services and discuss some of the verification we've been doing. So typically you're gonna have a water main that's located within the right of way, often under the street. It's a corporation stop that connects the water service to the water main. And then there's a gooseneck that comes off of the water main. And it's since the corporation stop comes up at an angle, it's kind of a flexible piece of pipe that comes down and starts the lead, connects to the full lead service line or full water service line. And then it extends to the property line where there's typically a curb stop. That's where the Cal Lake can turn off the water if need be. And then it turns into the private side of the water service and eventually makes its way into the home to connect to the interior. So the reason I bring up that gooseneck is that historically in the past, those goosenecks the 1950s and prior, typically what we see in the area. Like gooseneck was made out of lead. So lead was a great material for those goosenecks because it's malleable, it's flexible, great for installing water services, not great for water quality, we've learned since then. So oftentimes that gooseneck would be connected to a galvanized line. And if there's a galvanized steel line, Eagle assumes those to be a lead service line because that lead will often leach off and flakes will attach itself to the wall of a galvanized pipe that it won't do for copper or plastic. So basically what we're looking for is galvanized lines out there. I don't believe there's really, I don't expect to find any lead lines actually within the community. It's all just gonna be galvanized lines. Either connected or previously connected with a lead. So what we've been doing is potholing on the public and private side of that curb box, so we can get data points on at the exterior of the water service. And the township plumbing inspector has been doing interior inspections, getting that data point inside the home, try to figure out what our water service materials are like. So just to give you an update on what we know so far, there's about 771 services, potable services within the water system. 61 of those are in Lake Township, and those are all either known or assumed to be copper. We have 35 services we found so far that are known to be galvanized. We're assuming that those were previously or are connected to lead, and those require replacement. That leaves about 31 services that are still unknown out there, but they're suspected to contain lead or galvanized material based on where they're at and what mains are connected to the community. So we still have some investigation that still needs to be done, that's gonna be happening later this summer, both on the interior and exterior to try to figure out those 31 services, where do they fall in the spectrum? Do they need to be replaced, or are we good and don't need to touch them? So that will all be happening later this summer. So this is the project we came up with. So there's, I think, 66 services I talked about in the last slide. Here we're actually submitting for replacing only 50 services. The reason being some of those services are located on the Riverside Drive dugout project that are currently being replaced earlier today. So that leaves about 50 on there, and just to keep in mind, like I mentioned, there's still several services out there we don't know if it does contain lead or not. We're gonna do some verification, so our thought is and understanding is that 50 will likely be less once we find ones that aren't actually galvanized. So this is kind of a worst case scenario of all the ones that we might have to replace. So it involves 21 full service replacements, 22 on the private side, and 7 on the public side. So this is the need of the community that we're submitting to DWSRF. So just a little bit of details on the program. It is a low interest loan program. For fiscal year 26, we're estimating that the interest rate would be approximately 2.5% for a 20-year loan. You're not gonna find any lower rates than that on the open market or even with USDA rural development funding. So it was a really good low interest rate, good terms. The township does not qualify as overburdened, so this is something that Eagle defines what overburdened or significantly overburdened is. It's based on median household income, and Saugatuck Township does not qualify. So what that means is Saugatuck Township won't get as much points in the scoring system, and it means that the interest rate is 2.5% instead of 1%. So we put together a project planning document, like I mentioned, and that's been noticed for at least 10 days, which is an Eagle requirement, that's available to the public. And we'll be having a public comment period here in a minute at the Q&A session. And then all the written comments and anything else that's discussed today is going to be compiled up, summarized, and put in the final project planning document. That's going to be submitted by June 1 to people. So I will note a little bit quickly that the program is quite competitive. And historically, 10 years ago when I started my career, they were just asking for people to apply. And then everyone started getting really into asset management and realizing all the problems that they had. So there's a lot more people that were find the system. And then COVID happened, so ARPA money flowed through DWSRF with a lot of grants. The Biden infrastructure law flowed through DWSRF with a lot of grants as well, and extra loan money. So there's an influx of applicants on the past couple of years especially. So that's still the case now, where Eagle estimates that there's $1.5 to $1.7 billion in requests this year for fiscal year 26, and they have about $200 million available. So their demand well exceeds the availability of funds. That being said, there is an additional $150 million that the state does have available specifically for lead service lines. And some of that does come with, some of that is tied to bill funds, so by infrastructure law funds. That does come with like a 49%, 51% loan to grant. So, and then there's also some state appropriated money as well, and that $150 million that could also come as grant. So the state really wants people to apply for this. That's why we're doing this, why they're pushing it, because they want to be able to use that $150 million. So I don't know how optimistic to be if the township's going to get it or not. It is, as I said, quite competitive. We're estimating that the township has about 55 out of 100 points on the scoring criteria, and in the past for the full DWSRF program, 80 to 85 has been competitive. So this year they are splitting it out into 2 separate lists. So there'll be a list for the regular DWSRF, and then there'll be a lead service line only list. So the township's goal is that we can be high enough on that second list, competing with all the other lead service line replacement projects. So we're hoping that the township will get funded, but it's not a good. On to financing. So this project cost based on those 50 services is approximately $520,000. So just a reminder that this is the worst case scenario, and as we expect, some of those 50 services may drop off as we further verify some of them. But we can't go back to DWSRF and ask for more money, but we can only ask for less. So we want to make sure we were covered in that sense. So based on a 2.5% interest rate over 20 years, that comes out to about a $33,000 annual payment on the debt for 20 years. The township system has 886 REUs. So if you take that annual payment divided by the REUs, it comes out to about $3.17 per month for the typical residential user. And that's before any grant, and that's for the worst case scenario. So you can really that the average bill for Saugatuck Township customer is about $49. So it represents about 6% of that. The township is already planning to implement $2 per month inflationary increase for water rates. That's a result of a capital improvement plan that was done previously, and this project was included in that capital improvement plan. So it's already figured in, built into that inflationary increase. And then I want to talk about some beneficial impacts to this project. First of all, there'll be job creation. It'll have an open market and competitive bid process. It will bring the township into compliance with Eagle's lead and copper rule, where currently the requirement is to replace all lead services by 2041. And it will also better protect water quality. Obviously, it will get lead out of the water system. There'll also be no anticipated effect on air quality, wild or scenic rivers, wetlands, or floodplains. Most of these water sources are all in previously developed areas, so we don't anticipate that it's going to affect any of those things. So it will also require coordination with historical, electric, archaeological, cultural, or recreational area disturbances. So it will require some coordination with some local agencies. There are some temporary adverse impacts. These are all just related to general construction. You're going to get construction noise, traffic disruption. Water service will be disrupted temporarily for those who are replaced. But they can be mitigated with the construction contracts going to require maintenance of local traffic, limited work hours, and everything will be permitted accordingly. So what are the next steps? Again, just a reminder to fill in the sign-in sheet if you haven't. Public comment will end tonight, after a brief Q and A after this. And then we will pull all the written comments together and everything tonight and include it into the PPD. Then the township board will need to pass a resolution to formally adopt it and make the township manager the authorized representative for the grant or for the loan application. And then, and adopt that as a selected alternative, what I discussed. And then we'll make final edits and submit by June 1, and then we wait. We'll find out, Eagle will typically come out with their draft project priority lists come like mid-August. So they have a couple, 2.5 months to do some more verification work in the meantime, with the goal of trying to get all the information in front of us so we can make an informed decision. Once the township figures out if they're in the priority list or not. And then ultimately it gets finalized in October. And then it would be on to construction from there. So that's when the decisions be. So. With that, I'll open up to any questions. The board.
Ask quickly.
Yeah.
You used the term potholing.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Good question. We use a hydro excavator, just a vacuum back truck, they call it. It's a soft digging truck that can excavate small, 2-acre hole down to get 5 feet deep to the water surface and then see the material and backfill. So it's all
You can make it a pothole, you feel like.
negative bottom, just the width of the surface line. Good question.
Tyler, thank you very much for that presentation. I have 2 questions. Is there a plan B drafted yet if in October we're not chosen?
That's a good question. Yeah, one plan B is to try again next year. So this project plan, it'll be, it took some time and effort to put into getting this project plan developed, but once you submit it, you can just apply again the next year, which is some minor changes to cost estimates, things like that. So the cost to apply for next year would be very small. And the year after that, I think it lasts for 5 years. So that would be one opportunity to just keep applying. The other option is, obviously, could take out a loan on the open market to cover the costs. That's an option as well. Like I mentioned, the time horizon here is quite long. Eagle requires that, right now, the Eagle requirement is 2041. EPA actually changed those rules last year or during the Biden administration and changed it to a 10-year replacement window starting in 2027. So it's actually likely gonna get changed, pushed up to 2037. So not a huge difference, but it's still a long time horizon that the township has. And township is blessed in the sense that most of your system is new, most of your water system does not have lead service lines. So it's a relatively small.
So is it 77? Did I get that number?
Yeah, it's 771 in the system.
No, is it?
For lead service lines?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're estimating after the Riverside project, 50 at most.
So it's down to 50, okay.
Yeah,
Which is great.
which is,
Doesn't minimize, we want to take care of it.
yes,
It's time to do that.
yes, yeah, so there is time and, there is, who knows what's gonna happen in the future in terms of funding, but there's gonna be a national problem and a state problem. That has been a high priority too, so it very well could be that more grants or funding may be made available in the future. So the township could either wait and see what happens there, or if they were aggressive and wanted to go forward, then we could, like I said, take out a loan on the
It
board.
becomes the budgetary.
Yes, correct, yep.
And the second question is, Brian, are you working with the 2 cities, Douglas and Saugatuck, in this, or are they at different chambers?
I've been involved with Douglas, I haven't been involved with the city. So
Do we know
Douglas.
what's doing the city?
Police and Management.
Oh, the city. I only asked, coordination might be helpful, but I know they have a lot more of these homes to deal with.
Exactly, yeah, they're going through the same, Douglas, I can speak to Douglas, they're going through the same thing and they have a bigger problem than the township.
Are they both applying for this?
Douglas is not, I don't know about.
City Saugatuck is.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
Pretty sure they have that TMS branch too.
yeah, so then they would be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool. Thank you for everything you do.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, sure.
More questions for Tyler?
Do you want to open the public hearing?
All right, it is 7:01. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the public hearing regarding the EWSRF application. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak at the public hearing? So these comments would be limited just to the application. All right, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:02.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's no further discussion on this item. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to adopt resolution 2025-13. A resolution adopting a final project planning document for water system improvements and designating an authorized project representative.
I'll support it. Motion by Marcy, support by Aldrich. Further discussion? None, I'll call the roll. Marcy,
Yes.
Aldrich,
Yes.
Osmond, yes, Bickford, yes, Hummer.
Yes.
Great. That brings us to item number 2 on new business, right of way vacation. Again,
160.
but it's just not.
Steve.
No, it's cool.
Excuse me.
You can do that.
Again, we discussed this at length at the committee of the whole meeting. But Daniel, go ahead and give us the highlights on this and.
So for consideration of the board is the vacation of approximately 1,000 feet of right of way on a currently non-functioning portion of Dugout Road. Dugout Road used to go all the way to the lake. And in 1951, the section that went all the way to the lake was closed down and was awarded to a private property owner. And then in 2012, the Allegheny County Road Commission abandoned the rest of that section of Dugout Road and then transferred the right of way to the township kind of by default, that we've been holding on to since 2012. The property, or I should say the right of way, it's not the property, it's just the right of way, is completely surrounded by private property. At the time that the right of way was transferred to the township, the Parks Commission did evaluate it to determine that it did not have any recreational value. Currently, the right of way continues to deteriorate. It's located midway up a very steep bluff. And the condition, we would say, is unsafe. So at this point, it's kind of a consideration of whether we want to vacate the right of way or we want to put up signs that do not allow the public on the right of way. Given that it's a real liability for both pedestrians, and we've also had cars travel on it. It is a absolutely non-functioning road, and when it was a road, it was a 2-track road from 100 years ago, so it was never to actual road standards that we have now.
Just make a brief comment. I think it's, a potential danger, it's a danger and a potential liability. I mean, what it really boils down to, it has no real value add to the township. And I think that vacating it would be preferential to posting no trespassing signs. It just sounds like we'd still have to manage it and babysit it, and we can just let that other property absorb this very small piece of property. It's the best option.
I would agree.
And yesterday, didn't you say it's just one piece of property?
There's one property owner that
Right.
has both sides of the right of way. Yeah, and then the property dead ends into private property, and then there's private property to the south, or I think we would call it the south. So there's no potential to put in a parking lot, there's no potential to. There's no connectivity, there's not even, the real, one of the real issues is that there's not even potential to stabilize it because there's private property on either side. So it would just continue to deteriorate, there wouldn't be an opportunity to restore it.
The last time I drove down the whole thing, it was in the '70s and it was frightening. So it was really, really scary, so I can't imagine it being it just had to deteriorate more, so. Sounds to me. For public safety.
Someone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution 2025-14, a resolution to vacate public right of way commonly known as Dugout Road.
I'll support.
Motion by Osmond, support by Marcy. Further discussion? Osmond? Yes. Marcy?
Yes.
Hummer?
Yes.
Bickford? Yes. Aldrich?
Yes.
5-0.
Water main construction.
169.
Back at it.
Kick off this discussion.
Yes, so for board consideration is a water main construction agreement between Saugatuck Township and North Shores of Saugatuck LLC. The developer intends to extend a water main along 135th Avenue to service a new condominium development. The project did receive final site plan approval by the Township Planning Commission. And that approval was contingent on a number of items, including finalizing a plan for extending the water main and the installation of the water main. And so we made that contingent on issuing any certificate of occupancy that the water main has to be in place. Excuse me, the water main has to be in place, and that the homes have to be connected to it. So this agreement formalizes that and identifies the scope of work involved, which does include the looping of the water main on 135th with the existing water main on 66. And I think that we've all been through this before, where it's a high priority to loop water main whenever we can for both water quality and water pressure for fire protection. So definitely a good thing to do.
Any questions for Daniel?
I'll move to approve the water main construction agreement with North Shores of Saugatuck LLC.
I'll support. We have a motion and support. Different discussion. None, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Proclamation. This is something between, how many years, John?
19 was the first. This is 6.
So we're proud to continue this tradition. Do we want to have someone read the proclamation? Just
That's really.
I know,
Well,
yes,
But it's,
it's the same.
I mean, I'll do it, but it's the same.
And we will be,
same as the last
and we will
time.
be probably flying the private flight for the month of June.
Correct.
Right. So,
It's in your packet.
yeah, I know. I should have.
I mean, I don't mind.
All right.
I'll make a motion, though. How's that? Okay, is that fair? Okay,
That's very fair.
okay. I'd like to move to designate June as Pride Month in Saugatuck Township.
Off the board. For further discussion? No. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Ambulance building roof repair. Pretty straightforward. Daniel, just give us the important points, please.
Yep, so Saugatuck Township is a member of the Ambulance Service Committee that includes multiple townships in Allegan County and the city of Fenville. The city of Fenville for many years have been very gracious in providing a building in the downtown area to house an ambulance. This ambulance is Life Ambulance. In the past, when there have been large repairs to this building, all of the members of the Ambulance Service Committee have contributed to paying for those repairs. We are at a point, I think 20 years ago, the roof had to be replaced. The roof has to be replaced again. We've gotten a few bids in, one of them being for just under $30,000. This is a request for the township to make available up to $5,000 to contribute to the repair. That doesn't mean that it ultimately will cost us that much. It's still under discussion at the Ambulance Service Committee, exactly what the contribution requirements are gonna be. But this kind of covers us and allows our representative on the Ambulance Service Committee to help them move forward with choosing a contractor and getting the work done. But there will be further discussions about exactly what the cost share looks like. But this is just to make available those funds. I don't think I'm 99.9% confident that it won't be more than 5,000. I'm also encouraging to them to think about whether or not we add in a little bit of a capital contribution or a maintenance contribution into the special assessment. It'd be very low. But if everybody contributed, let's say $250 a year, over the course of 20 years, the Ambulance Service Committee would not have to come back to the municipalities and ask for repair costs because they would have already saved it up. So that's something that they're discussing, so we don't have this kind of like a little awkward situation where they come back and ask for funding out of our general fund. But that's a conversation that we're having. But unfortunately, we don't have that fund set up. And so it's coming back to each of the individual township boards. Not all of the boards have approved the expenditures, but some of them have. And they've done a similar thing, made a commitment to offer up to X dollars to fund the replacement of the roof.
Thank you for encouraging some proactive movement on that, and I'm sure that especially some of those smaller municipalities that have limited budgets could really benefit from that as well. Questions or comments on the inputs? To make a motion?
I move to make available no more than $5,000 to the Emergency Services Committee for the repair of the city of Benville ambulance station.
I'll support that. We have a motion and support. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We don't have any items under number 14. So that brings us to public comment. Rules are the same. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak at public comment? This public comment. I think we already checked in with Brad, so he knows the drill. If he wanted to speak, he would. It's probably multitasking. I'll go ahead and close public comment section and open up the board, open board comments. Trustee Marcy, do you have anything?
Well, again, to thank you for doing the work necessary to secure these grants. I know how hard it is. The other thing I just wanted to say is our friend Tony Shippa, who tracks data and that kind of stuff for us, he is doing free cardiac, he's not doing the full certification in safe and emergency, but he's doing
CPR and first aid.
he's just doing CPR and a reminder of how to use the AEDs and how to just how to revise
Chest compressions.
only. It changes all the time.
And then
Yeah,
the AED.
yeah, yeah. And it's free unless somebody wants to make a donation. I did it. I did choose to make a donation.
And he is a 501c3.
Yes, he is a 501c3. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Thank you for remembering to bring that up, and I think he will come and present to us.
Yes, I hope so, yeah.
Excellent.
I just want to express how excited I am again about the deer removal that we approved. in the consent agenda. So I want everyone aware that if you see a deer on the side of the road that needs to be removed, we now have Blue Star Handyman, Brandon Blue, who is going to dispose of them properly and pick them up. So feel free to call in your sightings.
Thank you for
Stacy called.
championing.
The township.
The township,
We can take
yeah.
that here now.
Yeah, it's
For
not a
them.
problem and we didn't have any way to
Yeah.
dispose of it, so it's been one of my things I've really wanted for a while, and thank you, Daniel, for doing that. And I'm really excited about
Hey.
Thank you for your work.
I just want to clarify, when you said sighting, you mean sighting of the dead.
it. I did,
Right.
right here, not the live one. Yeah.
Although,
I have a lot of live ones in my property, but I'll start calling.
And another thing, I did. It's just a little tidbit from the wildlife committee that they did do the drone survey at just 2 blocks by West Shore of the Root Beer Barrel, and there were 79 sightings in that one,
and just that snapshot.
that snapshot. So, yeah, they're out there.
And that was before they started
Yeah.
birthing new ones.
Oh, I know, this,
They
oh.
probably take.
Yeah, so there's a lot of deer, yeah, so and I'm excited they won't just be decaying around the roads anymore.
Thank you. Stacy. Clerk,
I don't have anything that I haven't already expressed, so thank you.
I share the same sentiment.
You do? Oh, okay. I didn't check my calendar because I couldn't remember. Last board meeting, I think I told you that the next day, we were hosting State Rep Joey Andrews here. It was the next day. So now I'd like to report that it happened. We had 4, I think, from City of Saugatuck, 4 council members, their manager and mayor, and 3 from Douglas, including their manager and their mayor, and then 2 of us and our manager. And Joey stayed for 2 hours, which I thought was pretty incredible. So it was a good exchange of questions, answers, issues, what he's working on, what he's most proud of. A lot of people expressed the needs of the particular community in the tri-community area. So it was great. It was great that he did this. So.
We talked about lead service lines.
All the exciting. Yes, that is it. I'll go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting at 7:20.